So, welcome everybody. My name is Sarah Parker. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I am the customer service and support specialist at App State at the Career Development Center, which just means I connect the spider web through all the people that are in our office and kind of help us keep going. One of my kind of initiatives this semester has been some diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And so we have a large group that's kind of tackling some things that are more in that lane of diversity, equity, inclusion, trying to add it into all the things we're doing, but doing something specifically. So this was one of those things. We have two awesome panelists tonight that I will let them introduce themselves in just a minute from two very different backgrounds, different companies. This is a cool thing. We're bringing two worlds together tonight. So I'm excited to hear the two perspectives, and I hope that we can shed some light on what inclusivity looks like in internships and how we can seek those out, but how they've made companies like that and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to let Laura also introduce herself as my co-presenter.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, panelists, for being here. Thanks, students, for being here. I'm Laura Pell. I'm a career coach for the College of Arts and Sciences, and I'm really excited to be in on this conversation, and I think it's a really important one. So thanks, Sarah, for getting all of this together.
Yeah. So Francine, I'll let you actually introduce yourself first, if you don't mind.
Sure. So my name is Francine Johnson. I am the customer experience leader at F5. So F5 recently hired me. I've been with F5 for 8 months now, but just a little bit of background is that I was formerly at F5 for 10 years. And I started out as what did you call that? Account manager. And I worked my way all the way up to VP of Global Service Sales. So over that 10-year span, I held a number of jobs and had a number of responsibilities and filled 2 passports traveling around the world to all of our offices, just learning a ton of information. And then I went to school at night to obtain my MBA and took those skills from my MBA on the road. And now 5 years later, I'm back at F5. So happy to be here and joining the panel today, and can't wait to learn more from you all.
And can you tell us just a little bit about F5, like a basic what you all do, and yeah.
Well, F5 traditionally we are a hardware company, but we are evolving to be more of a modern apps company. So really with a focus around security, software, the cloud, we are an evolving technology company, and our portfolio has expanded broadly over the years. And we recently acquired another company, Volterra. And it's just, a lot of exciting things happening with technology and the edge. And, that's pretty much what we do.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Rebby.
Hey, hi, I'm Rebby Kern. I use the pronouns they, them, and theirs. I am the Director of Education Policy at a statewide organization here in North Carolina called Equality NC. And Equality NC is the oldest statewide organization in the country, serving for the rights and protections of LGBTQ and marginalized identities. I am proud to be able to work here and to have traveled my way through many organizations doing work specifically to serve queer youth in particular. And so being able to do education work within the sphere of policy and government, as well as looking really broadly across the state, has been really, really important. And overall, we're really broadening out our historical, really single issue mission of our organization into a broader, multi-lens, intersectional way of seeing people for all of the identities that we hold, and what it looks like to build a safer, more equitable community for those often marginalized identities. So I'm excited to be here. So yeah, Francine and I have very different roles, and yet I think we're going to be able to share some really helpful tools around internships and career development.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first question was really because both of you are in very different fields, and your organizations both emphasize that inclusivity and diversity in hiring and your internships. So why is that important for what you do? And why do you think students should look for that kind of environment when they're searching for internships?
I can start if,
Yeah,
is that okay? Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So, you know, our we are at F5 all about inclusion, and one of our important goals is to ensure that all of our employees believe that they are heard, that they're seen, and that they're valued. So, really when someone is looking for an internship, it's just critical that they do their research on the company and figure out what is the diversity and inclusion program. What does the leadership look like? Does the leadership represent them? Does some of the information on the website represent some of the same morals, the values that the student might have around society and the company's impact on society? This isn't, the recruitment process isn't just about wowing the students with gifts and things like that. It's really about helping the students determine where they're going to find that long-term growth that could lead to a career and future advancement opportunities.
Great. Yeah.
It's incredible. I relate so much to that. And in my line of work, it has been a joy and what feels like a privilege to be able to make who I am my work. And I've worked plenty of restaurants and retail and clock in and clock out kind of jobs. And those were important for my development, for my team building and developing those hard skills. And what I discovered was in integrating who I am into work, the nonprofit industry became such a clear choice that I got to take my own experiences and be inspired to do that work. And I didn't think that was an option when I was growing up, and when people were getting me prepared in 7th grade to go to college. That wasn't really talked about. It was, you need a job that's going to pay the bills and you need a good ROI. And that was kind of like the option. And I can have both. I can have all of that and a Roth IRA. And so I think that that's really beautiful. And I really echo what Francine said, that, I work for a Black woman today who is strong and independent and really gets after it. And it's crucial in a realm full of white cisgender male CEOs that I look at my leadership and I see myself reflected, my identity is reflected, and feel empowered by that, especially in 2021. And I want more people to be able to have that experience as well.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Very important.
Yeah, especially I would think, Francine, your sector is very much, we think of STEM and computer science and things as very white, male, cisgender centric. That's very much like the stereotype. So F5 being more about that is different, right? Than most of the other companies out there.
Yeah, and it's, well, you can look at go to our website, look at our leadership team, and you can see how diverse it is. That's the first thing that actually, when I'm being considered for another role, the first thing I do is go check out the leadership team. And it's so critical. I mean, our CEO is Black, and that is such a phenomenal thing. It is, when I had the opportunity, I had 3 different opportunities, and I chose this role with F5 specifically because I felt like I would be supported. I knew once I, spoke with about 14 people, I, I, I felt like I would have a career path that would, be meaningful, and that I would be able to impact change. And then I would be able to bring others along on this journey with me, because for me, that is really important, is helping others find success, because somebody helped me one day. I wasn't always in tech. I just kind of stumbled into it, and I just happen to still be here. But if it wasn't for mentors and champions along the way, there was just no way that I would have made it, because as to your point earlier, it is a very white male dominated industry, and there are not a lot of Black and brown people in the technology companies. But I can tell you there is a huge push now for diversity. And it's not just something we're saying. At F5, we're taking action to make sure that our workplace, including our intern programs, are diverse.
Yeah. So you made it a great point of looking at that leadership on the website. Rebby, you touched on that too with your director. So what else do students need to be looking for when they're seeking an internship that's inclusive of all of their identities? What are some other, you think, like points to notice on websites or maybe in language that people use? What are some of those things?
I think it's important to, look at review sites such as Glassdoor. Take a look and see what the employees are saying about the company, and do they find some of the reviews relatable? Do they is some of the commentary that's being made something that gives them an aha moment, or is it something that they can identify with? Because most of all, the students want to go somewhere where they feel comfortable, right? This is all about I don't want to walk into a situation where I feel like, I'm looking around and there's no one that looks like me, and there's no place for me to go and ask a question or get help. So, review sites are a great place.
Great.
Yeah, those are really great suggestions. And I do have to give a support to HRC Foundation's Corporate Equality Index. And I think that they've done an incredible job creating a foundation and language on how we understand whether or not a corporation, an entity, an organization, a nonprofit is LGBTQ inclusive based on that criteria. And, we can look at colleges in the same way, right? I think lots of queer folks had that conversation sort of entering in, and App State ranks up there. And in addition to that, I think that understanding any inclusion statements, any anti-racism statements, and the overall mission and values. Of course, coming from a nonprofit lens, this seems more upfront, and sometimes it might be harder to find these documents working with more of a corporate organization or even a national brand at that, but they're there. And with that might also come business and employee resource groups, pride groups. If you're used to having a pride group, a pride alliance on campus, well, your company also have that. And I think that's a really good, sure sign. And in addition, I would also say too, and to really honor the experience as a non-binary person, I have to know that my gender journey will be supported through trans-affirming health, and whether that's through insurance or additional benefits that I can opt into. I won't work for an organization when I know my colleagues won't have access to HRT or time off for a gender transition. And that's, again, it's a privilege to be able to draw that line for myself, but it's crucial, and there's more of it now than ever before. So it's possible.
Yeah. And you're really hitting on, Rebby, that these internships are kind of a stepping stone, but this is a long-term journey. Like both of you have kind of hit on that. Internships often lead to jobs. And if you do an internship with a place and it doesn't feel like a good fit, it's hard to shift or to even say no, maybe to an offer or something that comes after that. It can be an awkward position to be in. So yeah, drawing those lines or, having the idea of what you need out of a place is really important. Thanks.
And just to expand a little bit upon Rebby's point about the employee, we call them employee inclusion groups. We have, I want to say at FI, we must have at least 15 to 20 employee inclusion groups. I think I'm in an active member of at least 7. And it is such rewarding work. And it doesn't, I'm part of the abilities EIG. Why? Because that I believe that, abilities are, they span so many different realms. It could be something seen or something that you don't see, right? But we should be supporting each other no matter what that ability is that somebody might need assistance with. I'm part of the, the FAB group, our F5 Appreciates Blackness leadership team. And, I lean in as much as I can in these inclusion groups because they are important. And it's important to not only show up for the groups that you identify with, but also show up as an ally, right? So there's quite a few groups that I'm just an ally to, because it's really important that we demonstrate with our action that we believe in things outside of something that might just be in front of us or something that might be familiar to us, but we can expand our thought process to embrace something and gain knowledge and continued education and expand upon that as well.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I have a question. That's okay. So Francine and Rebby, I'm wondering, obviously since the pandemic hit, a lot of internship opportunities looked really different for a lot of companies. So I'd love to hear more about how your organization has kind of adapted to the pandemic and what maybe a student intern's role would look like right now while things are a little different.
Yeah, I'll jump in first here. What's been really great about our statewide organization is that we were already remote. While we had 2 offices in Raleigh and Durham, and at one point we had a 3rd office in Charlotte, we were all already using Zoom. We were already integrating technology into our everyday work lives. And while some of us did travel across the state, some of us had a specific region that allowed us to network really specifically with our roles. And so there wasn't a lot that changed in how we functioned as a team, but what did become different was how our front-facing events looked. So they weren't in person anymore, but they were on Zoom, much like this, right? And all of the panels that have taken place and all of the discussion groups and so forth. And so the interns, as well as the fellows, I oversee a Rural Youth Empowerment Fellowship that I think I could say Sarah's partner had gone through this past year. And I think that while we would have loved to be able to get together every other month all year long, we were prepared to very easily move into that virtual space. But it did hold some projects up. Like there was an LGBTQ archive project that was very specific to the on-campus experience. And so that kind of lost some gas, if you would say, but it didn't end the projects. One project was an in-person discussion group that they then were able to make an intergenerational friendly caller program where, somebody could call a millennial, Gen Zer could call somebody who is an elder in the community and check in and check on needs. And people were very, very creative because of that. And so now we're running this year's fellowship completely virtual until we have other suggestions to do otherwise. So I'm really grateful that we're able to pivot in such a way, and it actually opens up the door for more folks to access that transportation and travel are no longer a barrier. That was a barrier for folks to apply. Yeah, good question.
Yeah, so similar to Revi, we made the same pivot from in person to virtual. We have a flexible work philosophy anyway. So, while we are spending more time virtually, the plan is to come back together eventually. But our interns will just spend this time with us virtually as well. So, we're not doing some of the on-campus recruitment events that we have done in the past. That's all happening virtually. The groups, the conferences and things that we participate in, the events industry all pivoted to virtual. So we are participating in those as well. That hasn't stopped. It just looks a little bit different and feels a little bit different. And maybe one day soon we'll be in a hybrid model and able to meet these great interns in person and make them a job offer. So.
Yeah. I really wondered with this question too. I'm one of those people who really loves to meet everybody at the water cooler and say, hey, how are you doing today? Like when I was an intern, I wanted to meet everybody in the office, just be in it and talk to everybody. So that is the biggest thing I just miss about our office being online. And I was thinking about this, and that's one thing that interns are really missing is that way to network with staff, especially some top tier staff maybe that they don't always get connected with unless it's, for the fellowship, you come together at a retreat and then, oh, the director's there. Oh, I get to meet her, that kind of thing. So are there any ways that your company is kind of trying to connect those interns with people to network, or do they have a mentor, or do they have ways to meet different people in the office? I'm just curious.
There's a lot of social activity taking place, cooking classes, and we do, virtual book clubs and happy hours, and every intern is assigned a buddy as well as a mentor. So I was a buddy with the last group last year, and it worked out really well. And so, I'm with you, Sarah. I miss the water cooler talk, walking down the hall and just popping in. Hi, how are you? You gain a lot of information and you build relationships in that way. But what I found is that you can build those same relationships virtually. What I do is I pick one person when I'm in a large group meeting. I pick one person that I don't know, and then I just set up a coffee chat, and it has worked very well. I've created allies in that way, found resources in the company that I didn't know exist, and it's just a great way to build rapport and find out more about the company outside of your own world, your sphere, and what everybody else is doing and what's going on. So there's a lot of opportunity to network and water cooler talk even in this virtual world.
Very cool.
Yeah, we had an opportunity to host a virtual drag brunch in October. That was a hit. Lots of people loved that, and that was something unique that we weren't doing in person. And so that was really fun to host that. And each of our fellows are paired up with a mentor. Some of them bring mentors in because their projects are already well developed. And I have to say that our fellows are already leading work. They're already executive directors. They are already just social workers and doing really, really incredible work already. And so I have to say, they're in a space to mentor others already, and to really give them the empowerment to do that and to be really autonomous over their work. The interns that have come in hold such power as the glue interdepartmentally, and they actually hold more information than some staffers we've noticed, and we really value them and the way that they're able to learn organizational skills and personal development, and even in the middle of a racial justice uprising, how are we having those conversations with these folks too, when maybe years before that would never have come up in the workplace, or hopefully it is. And we know the truth of the matter is that it wasn't, and it hadn't. And so really leading by example in that, and talking about self-care in that way as well. Yeah, so building out the water cooler talk online, GroupMe and Signal and all of these apps have helped branch out our ongoing communication sort of beyond Slack channels. And so lots of meme sharing and TikTok videos. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of I actually received someone overnighted me a 10 of us snickerdoodle cookies And it was, I was just like, wow, this is just like being in the office. It is, it's such a great environment, and it really is. We don't just say that we're inclusive. We really are. We embrace everyone. And one of our BF5 values is human first. So, when I'm talking to, some of the folks that I mentor, I make sure that I, I remind them often that, when they're considering a change or a new role, to make sure that the person that they're going to report to, embodies that same, human first mindset, and a work-life balance. Students should ask the important questions and make sure that they keep their eyes out during the internship for what that environment really is outside of kind of what they might say, right? So just, be very aware of the decision, because again, it's a journey, and this is it's a decision that, they shouldn't take lightly.
Yeah.
Thanks, y'all. That was really helpful to get a better vision of what things are looking like in your everyday. And honestly, was kind of thinking we should try a few things within our team like this. I'm sending all of you cookies.
Hey, I will take those cookies.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. It sounds like a really cool dynamic you've created online.
Oh, yeah, it is. Everyone has contributed to it though. So many different ideas.
Can I ask the next question, Sarah? Do you mind?
Yes.
So I'm wondering, obviously, I'm spending a lot of time talking to students about, what the next few months can look like for them, but also what the next few years can look like for them. And often we're talking about internships, but obviously internships are short term most of the time. So what are your interns or students that you have kind of coming through your organizations? What are you finding that they're moving on to do afterward? Do you have any cool stories of things that your interns have done after leaving y'all?
Well, most of our interns, well, we actually plan before they come in to make a offer. So we plan to hire the interns that come in to the organization. So if they leave for some reason, don't decide not to return, most of them end up at another tech company, especially if it's someone that has a computer science focus, or something along those lines. So that maybe they want to be in an organization that's more startup type, where they can be creative, right? And so they might lean towards a tech sort of startup company, or they might decide to go with a more structured company that is been around for a while but still innovative. And they go on to do, either create some really cool things in the roles that they take in these companies, or they branch out and start something on their own. I don't have all the details, but I do know someone that we had as an intern at one point did venture out and start their own company. So it can range. It just really depends on what the level of or what their background is when they came in as an intern. But we do, our plan is to hire our interns.
That's fun.
Yeah, I think that is a goal for so many places. One of our interns last year is on staff now in the communications department, and we had a second intern who started with one department in the beginning of the year and then came to my department the second semester, and then ended up going to do a grad program. And that wasn't a part of her plan initially, and she's actually studying some more policy work specifically, and that wasn't her plan originally. And so I think the goal is to inspire them and also hire them. And so that's ideal for sure. And like certainly becoming a campaign manager or getting deeper in policy or working for a school district or running for school board. I think that any one of those become very clear options, and helping people see whether they want to engage in a nonprofit structure or move towards a corporate structure as well, where the ladders might be longer and taller.
And just to expand upon Rebi's point a little bit, we not only want to inspire and hire, but we want to retain our talent, right? I mean, retention is so critical. We bring in people to this company because we believe in them and we believe that they can contribute their specific skill set in some way that is going to provide value. And we want to make sure that when we bring in diverse talent, that we set them up for success. So retention is so key when you are looking at a company, or the students are looking at a company. Asking that question around the retention of diverse candidates is key.
Yeah. Wow. That's where those employee resource groups come in, right? Too. So really supporting employees once you're there. It's not just a mission statement up front, but it's really followed through in there. That's great. I'm going to follow up too with Rebi, like more specifically on this question. It's going to be a little specific, but for a place like Equality, North Carolina, that probably doesn't have the space and the capital as much to hire all those interns, what would you say what do you think skills are that folks take away from Equality North Carolina that lead them into other places? So I'm thinking somebody who just has a real passion for LGBTQ rights, who just says like, I just want to do something I'm really passionate about for a summer and work with Equality North Carolina. And maybe they want to be in tech and they might work at F5 at some point, or maybe
Absolutely.
they, want to work in some other field. They're going to be in business, but they just really want to follow that passion for a little while. What do you think are those kind of skills or things that they take away from your work that are really going to help them in the long run?
I think that there's some really important basic skills that I think for a student still sort of navigating a calendar and navigating organizing time and commitments. It builds out this opportunity to engage in a multi-department structure where there are sort of reporting structures and there's expectations on how we track what we do for grant reporting. I have found that learning how to write a grant and how to track numbers for a grant is not common knowledge, and actually helps overall with tracking whether somebody is in a space where grant writing is there or not. And it also helps draw people back to the intention. So if I want to start a new program in my department, is it reaching to the overall mission of the organization? Is it helping me reach outcomes? Is it helping multiple departments reach outcomes? And then I get to have a stronger collaboration sense between departments to really build this richness of experience. And there's something about the small, so we have a full-time staff of less than 10, and to have a one-on-one relationship with an executive director, I think sometimes CEOs feel so far away, sometimes. And so to be able to be in a small setting where you can get to know and ask those questions along the way to the source is invaluable. And I've been really, I also went to a small liberal arts school. And so I didn't feel distant from my educators in that sense. And they were a wealth of knowledge. And so I see a lot of connections in that way. And I think really specifically, I've never been in front of senators and representatives and lobbying at the state legislature. And there's something about having access to that and talking to elected officials and candidates along their campaign that really kind of opens up our civic responsibilities in a way that it's like, oh, they have to listen to me and I get to tell my story, and what is my story to tell? And a person is a constituent no matter where they work. And so I think that skill is also helping people say, what's happening on the ground where I live and where I work, and how can I speak up for people who might not be heard right now?
Very cool. Thank you. Yeah, I think sometimes it's hard for students to imagine what are those skills that they put on a resume from somewhere that's a social justice organization or something like that. Somewhere like F5, you know what those skills are, you put them down. So it's great that you put that into words, because there's so many things that students gather from every internship they do, no matter how small or how big it can be. So thanks. So I'm going to open up the questions a little bit. If someone who is here has a question to ask our panelists. If you feel more comfortable typing in the chat, you can also do that too.
Just as a student, I was wondering how someone would go about getting connected with your type of groups. Like, is it something that their career center would usually send them to, or is that something they should kind of take on individually?
That's a great question. I know for us, we welcome you to the website and to reach out, and I will drop my email address here. I'm sure Francine will do the same, and we can get you connected and placed if that's what you're ready for. And I obviously can't speak to the work that is happening here on campus, but I'm sure that those processes are live as well.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely drop my information into the chat as well. We are I believe we start our recruiting process in the fall for interns. But definitely, we have a number of avenues, Ashley, where you can reach out and learn more about F5. And these opportunities are definitely posted on our careers page.
Yeah. Yeah, and both of you all as employers are connected with us in Handshake. So for us, that's like the #1 resource. I mean, it's where everything happens for the Career Center at App State. So we always encourage internships and jobs to be listed there. That happens, and we send out a weekly newsletter about our internships that are open and jobs that have just posted. So we are trying to get you all publicity on every corner to get those out there for sure.
And always, Ashley, you know, you or any other student, reaching out to employees via LinkedIn is a common practice. I've seen some students reach out and just say, hey, I have an interest in customer experience. Do you mind if I just, you know, if we can have a chat? And I'm always open to those opportunities. And I know a lot of other people are as well. So LinkedIn is another great avenue.
That's a good point. That feels very scary for me to reach out to people via LinkedIn. I don't know why, but I even have that hesitation. So it's great to know that.
It can be, LinkedIn can be a big scary place, but you know, I can guarantee you that no one is going to you know, be mean. They might refer you to someone else, but you'll definitely receive a response for sure.
Yeah.
As a career coach, I often have to say, yeah, doing those prospecting emails, finding that the organization that looks like it would be an ideal fit, and just saying, you know, I'd love to work with your organization, and send a copy of your resume and why you want to work there. And, you know, even if they don't have anything right there, they'll remember that you've looked into it. You can ask for an informational interview. So that was really great advice. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, we had a diverse candidate that we had been trying to place for a year. So it took us a year to find the right role, the right fit. But we finally did it, and we actually celebrated with a glass of wine over Zoom. But that is how committed we are as an organization to making sure that we place diverse candidates if they show interest. And it might not be a direct fit. That's why I always encourage people, even if you look at the job description and you say, well, I don't exactly have this or that. If you have something that you believe that you can add, that would be, you know, seen as something, you know, a skill set that might be comparable, or it never hurts to put your name out there and write a great cover letter and say, hey, this is why you should take a look at me.
I have a question kind of going off of Ashley's question. If a student was interested in applying for an internship with your organization, what are some things that they could include in their application, or could say in their interview, or could have on their resume that could really help them kind of stand out in that process? What would you be looking for?
Yeah, a couple of things that come right off the top of my head is we really value getting to know each person and knowing um, that they can bring their whole self to the space and advocate for all of their identities in that way. And I think with that being said, also being really clear about what they want to have, whether that is ensuring that there are active captionings on all of the internal communications and front-facing events. We do want to hear that. We do want to know that people are interested in working from a space of anti-racism in all of the work that they do. And so it's a really important time to be able to have that and to celebrate that. I think in addition, understanding a person's individual vision for what they want to have happen and letting that include a 5-year plan in a way, right? So how can we help get that person to their next step? Do they want to go into policy? Do they want to go into programming? Do they want to learn how to design a website? And being able to place them on a trajectory, whether that's staying with us or moving them forward, and maybe getting them connected to a campaign if that's what they want to do as well during an election season.
Yeah, and I would also say include any sort of volunteer work, right? Anything that you're doing in your personal life that you think is something that makes you a well-rounded candidate, right? So the my admin that I hired, she's phenomenal, and she worked at a bakery, and she was a soccer coach for youth. Well, I was immediately intrigued because I coach, young girls who in running, right? And so she's doing soccer coach. I was like, oh, okay, so I can relate to her because we both have a passion for working with youth. So you want to try to include in your resume something where somebody might find that connection point. And it could be volunteering or whatever your extracurricular activities are.
And that'll include a love for TikTok. I know I brought it up earlier, but we had our last intern loved TikTok, and we didn't have a TikTok channel. And she was like, "Can we do TikTok?" We're like, "Have at it." Right. And now we have a TikTok channel. And so we really miss her for that. But it's great to be able to share all of those passions and extracurriculars. Yeah, totally agree, Francine.
I just said to my campus organization that I'm the advisor for today, should we get a TikTok? So I'm going to look at yours, Revy, at the Equality North Carolina one, and we'll see if the well will have one. Who knows?
Yes.
So one thing that we talked about, Revy has been on a panel actually with us before about LGBTQ inclusion, which was really cool. And it was talking about the job search. And so I see a lot of parallels here too. When we're talking about inclusivity, diversity, going off of what Laura was talking about with those cover letters and resumes, do you think that these students should include that kind of diversity and their identities within cover letter, resume? Like, how would they do that? What would your organization like to see in terms of that? And what might that look like? And what might be off-putting and what might be really good?
I would say that, you should include what you believe is important, right? And having a conversation, either whether that be in person or over Zoom, or expressing your beliefs in a different way is fine. I've run across that in some resumes. I think it's great. There's whatever I think it's up to the individual and their comfort level with sharing. And then it's definitely it's definitely not an expectation, but it's welcome.
So weaving that into your journey too,
Definitely.
what you're searching for.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think for our organization, I mean, it wasn't until today years old that the Bostock case helped ensure protections in the workplace for LGBTQ people. And so I'm just so proud to be able to work for an organization like this, because we do encourage people to tell their story in that way and to know that Black trans women who are disabled and living below the poverty line are welcome to apply. And we want those voices here. And We want to see those voices in our government, and we want to see those voices in leadership. And it's overwhelming, and I'm so full of joy because of it. And so we absolutely want people to share that, and we know that they may not have ever been able to do so. And I remember even applying for college and being like, do I talk about this part of who I am? Is this going to help me or hurt me? And I just encourage any trans folks that are watching this that, we've talked a lot about sort of bigger organizations and corporate, and you might be really interested in a small rural sort of local cleaners, like a clothing press shop or a sandwich shop, and you can still ask those questions in a way that that you can know that you will be seen and heard, and find yourself in a space that you feel uplifted. And then it is your right always, whether you want to come out or not to come out, about identities, and we all carry our own weight about it all, and I get that and I honor that. So I'm just happy to know that so many of us have more space to share who we are up front now.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thanks, Rebby.
Yeah, and I mean, and just to, talk just a little bit about the whole, the blacks in tech thing. I mean, it's, being a Black woman in tech is hard. I mean, it's, I've walked into conferences of 1,000 people and been, number one, the only woman, and then number two, the only Black person. So, I mean, it is, seeing where we are at now as a nation and being proud, right? Being able to go into a meeting and not feel like, maybe they won't take me seriously, right? That imposter syndrome is gone, right? I mean, those sorts of things that maybe I felt, a couple of years back, I don't feel anymore. And again, this is all about making sure that, when you're going through that recruitment process and identifying the companies that you want to apply to internships for, that you do your research and make sure that the company that you go to is one where you will feel supported, and there is a clear inclusion statement.
Yeah, thank you. What other questions do we have? Laura, did you have another one, or someone else?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk with Francine a little bit more about the STEM field specifically. So for students that may be interested in going into a STEM field, that may be from a marginalized background, what kind of advice do you have for breaking into this industry and kind of making sure you're still honoring yourself and your identity?
That's great. Yeah, breaking into the industry is something that is probably easier to do than people think, because there are so many STEM programs out there right now. Either they're focused on youth, or individuals who might have a background that doesn't exactly match, have the exact match for skill set, such as Europe, where you can not youth in terms of school age, but more college age individuals that might have come from a background that didn't allow them to attend college for whatever reason. There are a lot of opportunities for someone to break into a STEM field, and there's a lot of scholarships available. And again, I think the important thing is just to make sure that wherever it is that you decide that you want to pursue those sorts of STEM opportunities, that you have a mentor, that you have a champion, that you have a buddy, someone that can go along with you on your journey. I still have my first mentor. He's still coming along with me on my long journey because it's ever changing, right? And it's just when you break into STEM, you just want to make sure that you're in a place where you can come and bring 100% of you, your creativity, your personality, everything that makes you your whole self. That's what you want to bring into a STEM role, because that's what we're looking for, right? We want those diverse perspectives. And when you come to a company and you say, hey, this is my perspective on this, and this is where I believe I can add value, that's what raises eyebrows. That's what, the curiosity, right? That's what STEM is about. That's what we're looking for.
Great, thank you. And you mentioned making sure you have a champion or a mentor or someone to be on your side throughout that whole process. Where does one even get started in finding someone to be a mentor or a champion for them? What's worked for you, or what's worked for people you've known?
That's a great question. One of my first mentors was he was actually my boss, and I was in a position in a technology company. I was an admin assistant, and I let him know that I was interested in sales, and it was a small startup, maybe like 30 people. And he walked down the hall one day and he goes, "Hey, I just want to let you know that I have to eliminate your position due to cuts." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "But I can offer you this entry level role as a sales assistant." And I was like, "Okay." He goes, "And the VP has offered to mentor you if you can stay after work an hour a day." And I was like, "Okay," And so from then on, like, our relationship just blossomed, and he's still someone who's, in my corner to this day. And so sometimes it's you just get lucky. You find somebody who believes in you and wants to champion you. Other times you you have to seek it out. So, again, it's finding the resources, whether that be through networking, having conversations with people that you wouldn't normally have a conversation with, seeking out the company that you're interested in on LinkedIn. There's a lot of different avenues, but there's a lot of people that are willing to help, and they want to.
Yeah, that's incredible advice. And I've had many mentors along the way. I have my hands in a lot of buckets. Like, I do some consulting work, and I teach yoga, and I'm doing organizational work here with ENC, and I've got a mentor for everything. And when I moved to Charlotte, we have an city council person who'd served many terms here named Mayfield, and I admired who she was, and I admired for her being a first Black queer woman, right, to hold a position. And I was raised to understand that would be me in a lot of ways. That I would be a first, and I come from many firsts, and I have a strong lineage of warriorship. And so because of that, I got to watch her journey and hear her struggles and learn from that and see how she carried herself through it. And so it became so much more than, here's the best way to craft an email. And it came down to, when you're really hurting inside, this is how you have to take care of yourself first. And nobody else was teaching that. And so I kind of continued that, where I would ask people who I saw myself becoming in that way, and I would just ask them to take me under their wing. And my goodness, my film mentor from LA actually helped me find my birth mom. I was adopted a couple years after I was born. We just made films together when I was in LA, and he just happened to know her, and it worked out. And so you just never know how your mentor is going to show up for you in your life.
But they will show up. Sometimes it takes a little bit of work, but they will show up. And it's definitely, like to Revi's point, someone that you have to see yourself in, and you have to be willing to listen and take their advice as well, right? And I also believe that the self-care is critical. in any position, no matter what stage of your career you're in, self-care is so important. I've been in roles where I've worked, far too many hours only to make myself sick, right? End up in a hospital with exhaustion. I mean, that was just one extreme example, but, having, going through all that and then realizing I missed a step, taking care of myself first, right? That's something that I do think that we forget sometimes. And now now that we know it and we can talk about it, we can share these experiences. um, the students who are coming out of university they're at the advantage, right? They don't have to learn the hard way. They don't have to go to the hospital with exhaustion just to try to prove themselves, right? Because they know that they come first.
Yeah. I hear you both saying that this is a lot about relationships, that it's not, we use the term networking a whole lot, and I think that means something, but often we think it means these shallow connections with people, but these are deep connections that you've really gotten to know people. I've done a session before about what to do when you can't find a job. And what I recommend sometimes is that 30-minute coffees with people that you like and are in this field and you want to get to know. And I think mentorship often comes from just small conversations like that, where we don't know where it's going to come from. And that's what I'm hearing a lot from what you all are talking about, that it comes out when we're not expecting it too. So great advice. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. That was awesome.
We have like 3 more minutes left. Do we have another question or some closing things maybe that you didn't get out that you wanted to say yet, or anything else?
I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to participate in the panel today. It was great meeting everyone. You, Rebby, fantastic story, so inspiring. I love to be inspired by other people. I mean, that is just, I feel just warm and fuzzy inside. I'm so glad that I had the opportunity today to just talk about what's important, right? And that is how we show up, and how we make sure, to Rebby's earlier point, that we're inspiring our youth and providing the resources to not only university students but others as well. Everyone needs a hand at some point, right? And having diverse, inclusive workplaces, that's where we can really lean in and just make sure that we're providing that safe space, human first space for really employees to come and be themselves.
Well, that gratitude extends right back to you, Francine. We're so glad that you said yes to doing this today.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's so good to be here in this space. And it always reminds me of what I felt like as a college student, just trying to figure it out. And that's the best part. You don't have to have it figured out. You have to do something though. And so, yeah, so we're happy to be here. And Dan, so good to meet you, Francine. This is our first time meeting. And I as well am inspired by you and your whole, just everything that you're up to. I was pulling up F5. I'm kind of in the background and peeking around. So really, really good work.
Yeah, it would be great to stay connected. Let's connect on LinkedIn, and
Sounds good.
yeah, let's feel free, any of you, reach out if you need anything, any sort of if you have any questions about the internship program. I can get you connected with the right individuals. If you whatever you need, let me know.
Great. I want to say that Rebby also got connected on the last panel with somebody, and they're still like friends, I found out today, which I was like, that is the dream of the folks in the Career Development Center. We're making connections and getting people just really connected with one another. It is the dream.
That's awesome. And to your point, Sarah, it's all happening in a new digital world. So that's awesome.
In the small, big world.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for being here tonight. My heart is full. I'm going into the night with a high. That feels good. So thank you again for being here. And we're just so grateful. We want to have you all back again. I know that. So keep your inbox open for us.
Oh, for sure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.